Hello guys, so now we're gonna talk about the body type and style review of a very famous Hollywood actress, Carole Lombard. She was the wife of Clark Gable. She was extremely beautiful. Unfortunately, she didn't live long. So her career was just several years. I'm also gonna use some technology of Dramatic Kibbe about 13 body types. If you're new, I'm gonna leave the link down below on my body type series. It's very interesting to do the style review on those old Hollywood icons because every detail that they had in their outfit, it was on purpose. The way how they appreciated every body type, every body structure, the way how they really could see the essence of a person, and they were dressing her accordingly to both her body structure and her essence. Now people more are searching for looking like a certain image, but at that time it was very important the person itself, who she was, and she was dressed accordingly. Of course, we don't have much paparazzi pictures, and of course many of those pictures that she was dressed up for, she probably knew she was gonna get photographed, of course. So as a Kibbe body type, Carole Lombard was soft, natural body type. She was moderate in size. She wasn't very tall. She wasn't super small. She had blunt bone structure. She was slightly wide in bones, and she had some softness on top. Some soft flesh on top of those blunt and not very elongated bones, slightly wide bones. She was slightly squarish, slightly angular. Of course, it doesn't mean that all the soft naturals have to look like her. Her height was 1.68 meters or 5'6" according to Google. I was trying also to find the pictures when she's standing with other people so we could actually also see the difference with her bone structure and other people's bone structure too. So here's what I found. This is her with many other women and men. So she doesn't look very tall, she doesn't look very small, she looks pretty moderate in size. Her face is more on a wider side. She has pretty strong facial bones, yet they are not very elongated. They are probably more on a rounded, on a wide side. She has some softness. She is more to a wide side herself. Her body also doesn't look very straight and thin. It looks more on a slightly wide and squarish side. She was born in 1908. She was Clark Gable's wife. They were a very famous couple, and she died in 1942. When she was 33 years old, and so we can see that her career was mostly in the 30s. So they called her the queen of screwball comedy. So let's first look at the dresses that she was wearing. Again, as I said, we didn't have much paparazzi at the same time at that time, so probably the majority of pictures that they were making, she knew they were making pictures of her, so she was maybe trying to look a certain way or look more presentable just in general, or she just was dressing like that. The majority of dresses that she was wearing, they were long. Sometimes they were shorter dresses too, but the majority of them was long. They had drapes or drapey details. Those drapes wasn't super large and wasn't super small. I would say from small to middle drapes that she was wearing. Almost always she had waist emphasis. So her waist was softly accentuated. I didn't see her often in those bodycon dresses where everything was very sleek. In the majority of cases, she did have waist emphasis, but it was relaxed. It was just a little bit emphasized, but not too much, not too sleek. It was like softly accommodating her mid-body section. The ladies with this type of a bone structure, with this type of a yin and yang balance, and this is what Dramatic Kibbe's technology is based on, yin and yang balance, right? So these women, they have very soft yang with some yin undercurrent. When they express in their clothes their yin and yang nature, they look extremely balanced and very naturally beautiful. This is where they shine the most. So every time that she was wearing longer dresses or slightly shorter dresses, those dresses had that softness in them, and slightly, they were all slightly relaxed, or they had some relaxed details in them. So this is when they look their best, when their waist is slightly accentuated. It doesn't have to be very, very sleek accentuated. They look their best when it's relaxed and accentuated. When they're wearing something extremely bulky, this is when it's becoming slightly not for them, because they start feeling that they look bulky themselves, that their body looks bulky, which in fact is not true. They in fact are much more delicate, but this is sometimes with that bulkiness and that stiffness of the clothes, when the clothes has very stiff fabric and is wide, especially in that midsection areas, too wide, too bulky. This is sometimes what's happening. So they do look great with something narrower, something that would slightly accommodate their curves here in the central part. Even though many of them can have pretty straight figure and can have a little bit more here on top and maybe a little bit smaller hip area. Sometimes, not always. Jennifer Lopez, for example, she has a bigger bum, bigger hips area, but she's still soft natural because of the bone structure. Her bones are on a wider side, she's slightly on a wider side too. When I looked at Carole Lombard's dresses, some details were added in there. Sometimes there would be, I don't know, a rope would hang on from her belt area, or that would be a belt or a bow or something like this, or a brooch. Something soft would be hanging from the dress. They look amazing with this detail too. Asymmetry, they look amazing in asymmetrical pieces, like the dress with just one side as opposed to classics. Remember when I did Grace Kelly style review? So you can check that. I'm gonna leave the link on all of the videos of this style icon series down below so you check. So if we talk about classics, it's a little bit different. They look amazing in symmetrical pieces, and asymmetry sometimes can even slightly distract us from their balance. And if we talk about soft naturals, that's on contrary. They look amazing. They are blooming when they have something asymmetrical. It looks very chic on them. So the fabrics that she was wearing mostly was very glamorous, sparkly, satin, atlas. But again, she was dressed up on majority of those pictures. She was dressed up for a photo session. If we talk about necklines, she had all those different kinds of necklines, but they've never been very aggressive, very too sharp. You know, everything was kind of slightly softened here. Very often she had her shoulders very softly covered with some kind of a fabric. Patterns were actually from small to large. She could wear mid-size patterns, smaller patterns, or larger patterns. Sometimes she could wear that pattern, big golden leaves, for example. Looks gorgeous on her. Or she could wear something with big flowers on it. As far as they don't look very delicate, they normally look pretty mid-size. So you should choose for yourself. Sometimes if you're choosing very big pattern, maybe you can feel that it's a bit too large for yourself, so you just should go for a smaller one, because you know some people can have slightly smaller and more delicate facial features, so for them huge flowers can be slightly distractive. She had pretty big and large facial features, pretty big head, pretty wide face, so big eyes, so for her that big elements, I think, were not distracting. Sometimes her dresses could have some very puffy and big sleeves, and it looks very pretty on them. Sometimes you just check how you look in terms of your length, because sometimes with those huge sleeves, if you're not wearing high heels, soft naturals can be slightly on the smaller side, so sometimes maybe you can feel that it's adding too much width and your height is not supporting that width enough, so it's kind of creating a little bit like squarish appearance unless you are wearing high heels. So you just check for that. So every time that you're adding something here on the sides, check for how it compensates your height. Sometimes her waist on the dress could be elongated. Rarely she could have tiny dresses, more for her roles, or she could have some swimsuits. So when she was wearing some swimsuits, we could actually see the body. When she was wearing suits, it was pretty regular suits at that time because she was famous in the 30s. And in the 30s, they had very special suits with shoulder pads very often. Very often it would be like a gray suit or black suit, something pretty well tailored, so she also would wear that. Sometimes it was whether straight or with waist emphasis. Sometimes she would have a slightly lowered top. Normally for soft naturals it looks normal because they do look moderate in size. They don't look petite normally. So for them, that lowering the waist part is not interfering too much into their proportions. But again, you should just check for yourself, because with high-waisted, I think they also look pretty cute. If we talk about casual outfits, of course, as I said before, there was no paparazzi at that time, so she knew almost always when she was photographed. So there's very little amount of pictures that is left, of course, comparing to other stars who just lived longer life, right? So she had regular shirt, regular pants, and belt. She could have like a cowboy boots or something. And it's actually pretty similar to other stars of the same time. It wasn't super different. So Other styles that we already covered and I'm gonna cover in the future, of course, they from time to time could have some similar outfits. For example, in the 40s, in the 30s, most of the pants were pretty wide. Pants got much narrower in the 50s, but it became later. So, but before, they were pretty wide pants with a belt. She sometimes had sports outfits. So she would play tennis, for example, and that very classic, of course, tennis outfit. Everything white, white sneakers, white socks, white top, white shirts, white shirt. Sometimes she would have sea outfits or coastal style outfits with pants or shorts, small hat, and that kind of a shirt. If we talk about the coats, she sometimes would have fur coats, like big, actual, like real fur coat. It was very chic at that time. It was wide in shape, but because soft naturals, they again look pretty moderate in size, they don't look very petite, so that bulkiness of that furs didn't make her too close to the ground, too small or too bulky or too unproportionate. She still was able to pull out that vertical line. Sometimes she could have some narrow coats with some fur trim and more accentuated shoulder line. And leopard, of course. Almost every star that I'm talking about had leopard coat, remember? So we're adding one more in there. Or sometimes she could have some layered suits, or how to say, like pajama style suits. It was very chic at that time. It could be made with silk or atlas, slightly shiny, like satin finish of the fabric, or matte. It would be two pieces of the same suit, for example. It was slightly oversized, but at the same time it had a very certain trim, and that it could be oversized, but still those delicate hands sticking out of that, those delicate shoes, all that compensated for that bulkiness, and it still looked very chic and very feminine. If we talk about sweater, of course, turtlenecks. In every my video about this style icon, I'm talking about turtlenecks. I'm finding them everywhere, and I'm not surprised why now we are adding it as the part of our basic wardrobe, of course. She would accessorize those sweaters with a thin belt, for example, with a brooch. She could wear something stripy top or stripy gown. Sometimes when the top is too bulky, big horizontal stripes, sometimes that can slightly widen them up so they can look sometimes wider than they are, but again, not in every case, because a lot of things depend on the fabric, if the fabric is matte or shiny, how it reflects light or not reflects light, how exactly the sleeves are made, how long are their sleeves, how long is the top itself, and so on and so on. So it depends on many things. So one thing can compensate another thing. We're gonna train our eyes, and we're gonna see more of that in my future videos. We're gonna see how we combine the outfit, but you have to keep in mind that horizontal stripe, it's not making you wider. It depends on so many things. It depends on how you build your outfit and what exactly you're adding in there and what kind of piece this stripy piece itself. It's very important. They are so different. One piece can make you look more delicate than another. When it is too sleek or too close to the body, then it can accentuate slightly broader bone structure. So that's why soft naturals, they look perfect in close to the body, but not sleek, not super close, with some air in between, so they look perfect with that. As opposed to flamboyant naturals, they look great with big and bulky unconstructed stuff. It just doesn't make them look even unproportionate. They just look still cool with this flamboyant natural, but that's the difference. If you want, you can check my Jane Birkin style review where I'm talking about this, you see? So that is the difference. Soft naturals sometimes can look a little bit too wide and a bit lost in that super huge and bulky shapes. If we talk about jewelry, she would wear a lot of brooches, as I said before. Medium to big size bracelet, different rings, different earrings. If we talk about shoes were delicate and cute normally. Sometimes she would wear cowboy boots that I showed before, or white sneakers. It's just for sports or for maybe everyday style, or maybe for some movies too. But most of her shoes were very, very delicate. It could be high heels and it could be smaller heels or kitten heels. If we talk about her hair, she had pretty short hair most of the time, sometimes shorter, sometimes longer, but mostly in this neck area. Soft curls. It was actually pretty popular style for her decade. When it was too sleek, that could accentuate slightly wider bones of her face. So symmetry too. When soft naturals sometimes are making it too sleek and too symmetrical, like central parting, sometimes it just can accentuate their wider bones of their face, or just the irregular bones. Maybe their face can look slightly too angular sometimes, or too wide or too big for them, which in fact is not the case. So they look their best when they have some air in the hair and with side parting. Even if it's slightly on the side here, not in the very central, but slightly here, it's already making a huge difference for them, and it's adding a lot of chic to them. The curls are great. They can be curl by curl, very well dressed, or they can be slightly tousled. It doesn't matter. They look great with both. They just don't look bad with tousled hair, which is interesting. They don't look untidy with that. For example, some other types that I'm gonna talk to you about later, or I talked to you before, like we already talked about Elizabeth Taylor as a romantic. So for them, tousled hair on them look a little bit untidy. They look not all together. Their chic a little bit goes away. Or if you talk about soft naturals, that's their phenomena. It's not happening. They look very, very natural and balanced and very fresh and beautiful with slightly tousled hair. Makeup. Oh, that's an interesting thing. If we talk about Carole Lombard, that picture is very famous picture of her. Look at how light her eyes are and how beautiful that looks with that black lash line, with those lashes, and that face which doesn't have many shadows. Yeah, so she doesn't have this very dry cheekbones, for example. She has just a little bit shadows underneath her cheekbones. Her face still looks pretty soft, slightly widened bones, pretty soft, very gentle. Her huge eyes, light eyes, which look so beautiful with these contrasted lashes. I think that was her kind of signature look too, but on the other hand, I don't know if I'm not sure that it's kind of like her signature makeup, because first of all, there's anything specific about this particular makeup, because more or less every woman in the 30s would probably do pretty similar makeup to hers. Sometimes she would have smoky eyes. That was very beautiful. It came from silent movies, of course, and women were still experimenting with that. They didn't do it as intense as for the movies themselves, but it was still pretty famous look at that time. So she would experiment with that, and that smoky eye would make her blue eyes pop even more, especially with this black and white picture and with this very bright spotlight on her. She could have top and both lash lines dark lips and thin brows. All right, that's it. I hope that was interesting. I'm gonna continue with this series, and we're gonna talk about each body type. We're gonna talk about those stars of the whole Hollywood, and I'm gonna leave the link on my Pinterest boards. First board is called Celebrities Body Types, so you can find soft natural in there, and you can check what celebrities are in official Kibbe's list as soft naturals, besides of Carole Lombard. Many of them, many modern celebrities are there too. You can also check inspiration for the body type. So women they're not necessarily this body type, but the overall outfit and vibe, it's very close to their essence that I combined myself. You can also find soft natural in there too. And the third board is wardrobe for the body types. After I do review on those old Hollywood stars, like style icons, I then go and find very similar pieces in modern shops, and I'm adding in there all the time new links. It's just for your inspiration. You can buy it, you can use it as an inspiration, have it on your phone, and you go, I don't know, to the thrift shop, you would approximately know what to look for. And it doesn't mean that it only looks great on this, but I actually was trying to pick up things that if you get them, then you will be able to combine them, and they all will look great on your soft natural body. So thank you so much guys for watching. I'll see you very soon. Bye bye. Also, you can subscribe on my Instagram. All the links I'm gonna leave down below. Also, you can become my sponsor or subscribe on my Patreon for some exclusive videos, some early access to these videos, and just if you want to support me and my channel. Thank you so much guys, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.